everybody, this is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to your critique of the week for Friday, October 23rd. Thanks so much for joining me. Before we start, I should say that Rattle's publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit, working to promote the practice of poetry. We just do it because we love poetry, and we are unaffiliated with any other organization. If you like poetry as much as we do, please make sure that you are subscribed, that you like the things that we do, that you click something right now. But gather around for the critique of the week. Hello to Aaron Cloyd, James DeCillo, Catherine Swanson. Good to see you over on Facebook. Let's see. No one's gathered yet. Well, a few people are there on YouTube. Hello, people. No one's commented yet, though. Now, before we get, I should also let you know that we will be doing a drawing next week for the month of October's participants. Next week's critique is going to be, let me pull it up. Who was it? Oh, Karen Douglas. And after Karen's critique next Friday, the 30th, we will be doing another live drawing for November's Critique of the Week participants. And there's a new system for doing that. And how you do that is you go to rattle.com/critique is the easiest place to find it. But it's easy to find all over the place. But if you go there, hang on a second, let me put this on screen for you. Yeah, if you go here, there's just a little bit of details about it. And then there's a link to a submittable category, which you can click and you can enter there. And once you do that, it will take you to submittable. You just fill out your info, submit a couple poems to be critiqued. Make sure this box down here, you can ask any general questions too. If you have any, like, you want to know more about line breaks or if the meter feels off or things like that, you can ask whatever you want. If you include a website, I will shout it out for you. You can add some files here, submit 2 poems. If you change your mind on what you would like to submit after your name is drawn, you can do that. And also make sure to decide if you want your poem deleted after 1 week or left up indefinitely. So make sure you do that. And you got to click the agree to terms too, which just says that we can post it on these videos. Although the permission's always been implied here, but we're making it official now. We're doing this a little bit more officially. It's been 2 years since we've been doing these critiques of the week, and we might as well make it official, I guess, right? Now, let's see. Okay, so some people are gathering around. As always, do turn your phone sideways, click on full screen to make sure you can read along as large as possible, and leave your comments for the poet. If I find my pen, there's my pen, we'll get started. And yeah, leave as many comments as you can. Let everybody know your reactions, and let the poet know, because that's what this is all about. It's hard to know what people think reading your poems, what strangers think, because you can't really trust your friends and family, to be honest. And it's good to hear what people actually think. So let's read these 2 poems today. This is, here we go. This is Arun Paria. The first poem is I Stand Near You. I stand nearer to you. Sorry. I stand nearer to you. I stand nearer to you, not you. You that I adore will give my life to. To you, not you. My love will shine like the blinding drops of summer, will parch us, will overcome us like rain. Greasy strands of memories will put salt in our wounds. In the bitter rain, I will cling to you, not you. You will be there when I am dry. For in this indecision I live my life, my darling, separating you whom I both love, both hate and love. As I stand near to you by Arun Paria. And this is a good example of a distinction I usually make. I think I've talked about this before, but I think there's a difference between public poetry and private poetry. And I don't think there's really one one reason that one's better than the other. But public poetry, you have to make the poem be understandable to a reader who knows nothing about you or the situation. Whereas a private poem, like if you're writing a poem for a wedding or a love poem like this is, and it's written to and for somebody in like an intimate moment, you don't need to share the details because people already know the details of what's going on. So the language can be more direct and you don't need to provide that context. But for a poem like this to be a public poem, I think we need more context. So we don't know, it starts out, I stand near to you. So we don't know who the you is. And then later we get the my darling. So it feels like a love poem. But we really don't know anything about who the you is. And without knowing who the you is, I don't really feel a connection. The you is not me. And the you could be anybody else, any of the other 7 billion people on the planet. The relationship could be any other kind of relationship. It's a very vague way to craft a poem in this direct address to a you that remains undefined. So it's almost like a variable. Like the you is just an X and you can fill in the gap, right? But I stand near to you, not you. You that I adore will give my life to you, not you. I'm not really sure what this means, but I like the rhythm of that. To you, not you. And I like when it appears later too. So I did like that aspect of the poem. And my suggestion would be to do more of this. And have that refrain at the end of each line maybe. Because I like that to you, not you. Even though I don't know who the you is. And I don't know, I stand near to you, not you. Are they two separate yous? Like, are they the same person? I'm not really sure how to take that. But if we could flesh out this poem with more detail that we could feel and see, and that we could know the context of who's speaking to whom, if we knew who the you is and what that situation was, I like the rhythm and the way to you, not you kind of works. It's a really good refrain. But let's go on. So we get to the first image here. My love will shine like blinding drops of summer, which is an interesting image. And images are the most important thing in a poem too, because we are imagistic creatures. Like if a dog were writing a poem, it would be like smell, and they would be, scent poems, and scent would be what matters, because so much of a dog's frontal lobe is devoted to its sense or smell perception, and its nose. And for us, though, it's our eyes. Our eyes are everything, and that's why we can read. But that's just the way our brains are structured. So we create images and scenes and movies in our head, whether or not even before we knew to call them movies. We didn't have movies 2,000 years ago, but we still had scenes in our head, and that's how we thought. That's how we dream. We are imagistic creatures. We transfer knowledge through image. And so image is the most important thing. And you want to have as much image as possible in a poem, just to have the most connection, because that's how we're structured. You kind of write for your the species that you're writing for. So my love will shine like blinding drops of summer. I kind of like that, because the blinding drops, you don't expect summer. So you get a nice image there, I think. Will parch us, will overcome us like rain. I like this line too. Will overcome us like rain. How it's kind of a strange thought how rain overcomes things, but I think it works because it's a little different. Greasy strands of memories will put salt in our wounds. And of course, that is a cliche. So we want to, cliche. I got to start writing better on these critiques. That is a cliche. This whole salt in the wound. That's something that, unless you're going to twist it or play off it in some way, you just can't have. You just shouldn't use phrases like that in a poem, because, like I was saying before, we're such imagistic creatures. This image is already like one single unit and doesn't have the same kind of meaning or impact anymore. It's not really an image. Salt in the wound has been used so much that it becomes a concept. That's what a cliche really is. And it's detached from the metaphor it once was. And so it's detached from the metaphorical and imagistic power that it had. So you don't actually think of salt in the wound, really. You think of the concept of it, and it doesn't hit you the same way. So no cliches. In the bitter rain, I will cling to you, not you. See, I like that refrain. In the bitter rain, I would cling to you, not you. I think this is a good example of a line that works and what to model a whole poem after. In the bitter rain, I will cling to you. It's a very simple statement, but there's something there. You can sort of feel the energy and the emotion in that line. It's very nicely written. There's some image. There's some unique expression. So I think that's a good example as you rewrite this poem of how to sort of think about a line, because I think that might be the best line in there. You will be there when I am dry, for in this indecision I live my life, my darling. So first we finally know who the you is, my darling, although we kind of surmised it at that point. separating you, whom I both hate and love. And so this, the ending here doesn't really add a whole lot. It doesn't feel like it knows what it's, where it wanted to go, and sort of is capping it off this way. So for this poem, I would focus on what works, which really is this line. In the bitter rain, I will cling to you, not you. And use that as a refrain. Keep using that to you, and see what sort of magic, and see how you can surprise yourself by rewriting that line, writing new ways of using that sort of structure where you end on this refrain. And once you can surprise yourself, then you'll be surprising us as public readers who know nothing about you or the you in the poem. And that's the kind of thing that really is engaging. So my advice is to focus on this line. Let's see what other people are saying. Let's see. So T.R. Paulson says, I'm intrigued by the two different yous. Yeah, that it seems like there's something interesting there. It's just not really, it doesn't come across. It's not conveyed. And I don't know what to make of it. So maybe somebody else. So Sharon Ferrante says, somebody new, thinking of somebody old. I stand near to you. So is this like a new... See, I thought that at first. I thought that maybe it was like a, I love you, not this other person kind of proclamation. But then it goes to the you whom I both love and hate. So then that made me think that the you is actually the same person. And it was like two manifestations of the same person or something. So I'm not sure what to make of that. But it's interesting. It's the thing that draws me into the poem is that the you, not you. And trying to figure out what that means is where the most interesting aspect of the poem, I think. Let's see. And James Cecilia says, love, hate, dry, wet, interesting opposition. T.R. Paulson says, I like the rain, summer imagery, lots of metaphoric potential. And the contrast of wet and dry. That may be what the two yous are all about. Yeah, the you I love and the you I hate, and they're the same you somehow. There's an interesting concept in there for sure. And so there's definitely something to mine and sort of figure out. And Fran Smith says, yeah, possibly a split personality. I don't know if I'd take it that literally, but I think it's something like that. That's kind of my interpretation. Let's look it over on YouTube right now. Sally D's here. Hey, Sally. Okay. So does anybody else have any other comments about this? I stand near to you. Yeah, I think maybe that's what we can say about this poem. Carlton Johnson says has potential. Yeah, that you, the you, not you, the refrain. Take that and play with it and run with it. Like I think this is the very sort of like a zygote of a poem. It's the very beginning of a poem that hasn't figured itself out yet, but it found something interesting, which is that you, not you stuff. And so take that and play with it for a while and see where it takes you. That's all I can really say about this one. Let's look at the second poem. It's also short, so this might be a short critique of the week today. This is Anxiety, also by Arun Paria. Anxiety. One thing at a time, like love has its omen, kindness its faux pas, patience its sweat. But one thing at a time, like anxiety in a man talking, hope is figural. Their limbs huddle and tremble one tryst at a time. To live is to be woeful. I am living woefully with a feral cat, conjuring and vanishing the beast one plot at a time. That's interesting. So the anxiety as a feral cat, I guess is the metaphor here. I really love the first two stanzas actually. There's a really good rhythm. One thing at a time, like love has its omen, kindness its faux pas, patience its sweat, but one thing at a time. That repetition there works really well. And then this, like anxiety in a man talking. Did you notice the sort of, you got like a little punch of feeling when you got this image, like anxiety in a man talking. It's such a simple line. It's a perfect example of what I was talking about with the first poem, how image is really central to human cognition and to the transference of feeling. And really, these are poems, which is the music of human speech, but it still lives in image. And that's why when you get to this like anxiety, which is sort of an abstract thought, right? And a man talking, and all of a sudden, like, bam, there's this man talking. And for the first time when I read it, I felt something right at that moment when it was a man talking. And I don't even know what the man talking meant at first, although I think thinking about it for a moment, I think the man is like the voice in your head. It's like, negative thoughts that are anxiety inducing, that voice in your head that's saying, worry about this, worry about this, worry about this. I think that's what it's referring to. I'm not sure, but I felt it there. And it doesn't have to be much of an image, but image holds everything in poetry and writing of all types. Hope is figural. Their limbs huddle and tremble, one tryst at a time. I love that the sounds of this beautiful music in this these two lines here. Their limbs huddle and tremble, one tryst at a time. I'm actually going to start looking at the paper as I write so I can write less sloppy, which, I don't know. I don't have great handwriting, I'm sorry. But great music. And I like this too. So I like this whole section. I really like the way it is introduced. Hope is figural. I'm not sure I'm following the hope is figural. And their limbs huddle and tremble, one tryst at a time. It's kind of a complicated thought. I'm not sure how to unpack it, but I like it. I like the music of it carries it along for me. And I'm happy to, if a poem has a section, has great music and it feels good to say, I don't mind reading the poem over and over and over again. And to try to unpack what's going on in it, which is why that music is so important. To live is to be woeful. I am living woefully with a feral cat. Now, the feral cat seems like it comes out of nowhere to me, which is strange because I just talked about how nice the man talking was, because that image comes out of nowhere in the same way. And it's like, whoa, it's like a wake up for your senses or something when there's that image. But the feral cat to me feels a little out of place. Maybe it's because it's so late in the poem for it to arrive. Like if, and it only comes up to once. Conjuring and vanishing the beast, one plot at a time. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the ending. So we leap to this cat, which feels out of place. And if the cat was elsewhere in the poem, we extended that metaphor a little, it might work a little better. I mean, I'm imagining that the anxiety itself is like a feral cat that you can't control, or you can't. It won't be tamed, that kind of thing, which I like as a concept. I think that works. But it's sort of just dropped here, and doesn't really, like, I kind of expected the poem to keep going. Conjuring and vanishing the beast, one plot at a time. And we have the one thing at a time, one tryst at a time, one plot at a time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to make of it. It doesn't feel like the end of the poem to me. So this one, I would say keep going and extend the metaphor of this cat. Like, show us the cat. Oh yeah, I said I was going to write neat. Sorry. Show us the cat. Like, with a feral cat, like, what's the cat doing? To live is to be woeful. I am living woefully. I like that repetition too. Both the live turned to living, and then the woeful, because it starts a line here, it becomes sort of a stronger utterance of it. To live is to be woeful. I am living woefully. That's a great repetition. With a feral cat. Now, what is the cat doing? Like, describe the cat next, and then see where that takes you, I think. See, again, so poetry is about surprising yourself in a way, because we're speaking with the subconscious, and you have to let the subconscious speak and give us something that we don't know that we know, and which is really what's going on with all art, I think. And so keep writing until you surprise yourself. I brought this up many times, but in the interview with Rosemary Traumer on the Rattlecast, episode 45 or whatever she was, she writes a poem every day, and she mentions in that interview that her key is to write past where she thinks the poem's over. And that's one of the ways she keeps it fresh every day for her. And I would suggest doing that for this one. So if you think the ending is here, like, see how far you can push it. Like, don't stop. Don't take the first off ramp. You know, if you're driving down the freeway, it's almost like you take the first, it's very tempting to take the first exit that you see and say, oh, I'm done with the poem. I have written this. And a lot of times it's better to keep pushing and see where the road takes you. So another metaphor there. But so that's what I'd say. Both of these poems have some interesting potential and just need to be pushed, need some pressure, need to be extended. And I think that would go some interesting places. So those are the two poems for today. I Stand Near to You and Anxiety by Arun Paria. And that is your critique of the week. Oh, wait, I haven't looked at what people said for the second poem. I'm sorry. Let's see. Let's see. So, yeah. So Carlton Justin didn't like the repeating of woeful and woefully, but I liked it. Let's see. Sean Hines says, I love anxiety having personality. Their limbs huddle and tremble. I think I'm reading that right. Yeah, and so that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, you sort of, the poet ends up personifying the cat here, or what would you say? It's not a person. Embodying, symbolizing the anxiety with the cat. And you can do a lot with description of the cat and what's the cat doing, which would illuminate a lot about anxiety. And so that's why, I love this limbs huddle and tremble. If the cat appeared higher up, if you just switch these two stanzas and the cat was already introduced, then we would be imagining the cat's limbs huddling and trembling. And then you could and that's sort of the thing I'm talking about, the way to go, by pushing that as far as you can. Let's see. Sharon Ferrante says the second stanza would be a great beginning. Yeah, I think it would. I think the second stanza is my favorite in there. Although I like this section too. Let's see. T.R. Paulson says perhaps start the poem with the cat, have the cat be just a cat in the beginning, and then have the cat become a metaphor that could be the turn in the poem. Yeah, that would definitely work too. So if you move the cat up and just had the cat appear at first, it was describing the cat, and then that's the movement of the poem. We talk about this a lot in these critiques too, but a poem needs an arc in the same way a story needs an arc. Every narrative does, and every poem really does too. And it can be a strange, it doesn't have to be a story arc kind of arc, but it has to be some sense of movement. Like I started in one place, I ended up in another place. Even if you look at, speaking of cats, let me look up a poem really quick. If I can find it fast enough. Let's see. It's just a great example of what I'm talking about. Yeah, here we go. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Man. Shoot. Okay, I'm still looking. Bear with me, everybody. Bear with me. I thought I could find this really quick. Why can't I find this? It should be so easy to find. Okay, well, there it is. Okay, so here's a poem, and sorry for the delay, but here's a poem that I wanted to show you. This is Aram Saroyan, the concrete minimalist poet, the son of William Saroyan. And one of his poems is this, which I always think about when I'm talking about arc and the movement, right? This is something moving in the garden, a cat. And, being a cat in the poem reminds me of that. But look at how this, in one line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, we have something moving in the garden, and we don't know what it is. So it could be anything. And then it concludes that it's a cat. So there's this arc here. Do you see how there, even in this tiny one-line poem, there's this sort of space where we don't know, and then we fill in with knowledge. And it says a lot about human perception and the way that we think and encounter the world on this one little line. But it doesn't just, and that's what a haiku does too. A haiku shows this contrast where we move from one thing to another, from one space to another in this tiny short little poem. And even his other poem, Light, which you can see down below, he has a one-word poem, Light. And even in Light, the fact that light stretches, the word light itself stretches with the two GHs, like traveling at the speed of light would, according to Einsteinian physics. There's still a movement even in that one word. So poems need a movement, and that's a good idea by T.R. Paulson to start out with a cat. And then let the learning what the cat is and that the cat symbolizes anxiety can be the movement in the same way that something moving in the garden turns into a cat in the magic of the Arun Paria poem. So anyway, let's see. Any other comments? I think that's probably it for now. So Sally D says maybe would be stronger if take out the and between anxiety and the man. So here she says, like anxiety, a man talking. That would be a great, that is a great one-line little poem. Speaking of concrete minimalism, like the Arun Paria, something moving in the garden, a cat. If you just had, and maybe that's what was the cool thing about that line itself. If you just had like anxiety, a man talking, that's a haiku right there, a one-line haiku. And like it can be its own poem. And that's really the power of it, that way that image jumps off and the metaphor operates in such a tight, concise little moment. Anyway, I think that is all for today. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. It's always fun for me to take a little break and do a critique of the week. Before we go, I should say that there is the open mic show, as we always do. On Sunday, it's going to be noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. We will share whatever we publish from Poets Respond this week. And we will also, I'll share my Saiku. It's become the new tradition. We'll also look back in time at a poem from like last year or a couple years ago or something and see where we are in the almanac of poetry. And then we'll have an open mic for about 45 minutes, and you can call in and share any poems of yours that have anything to do with any current events. So it's a lot of fun. Hope you join us if you don't regularly. That's Sundays, noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific for Poets Respond live. And then on the Rattlecast, next week's guest is going to be David Mason. David Mason is just a fabulous poet. One of my favorites. His book Ludlow is one of the most, it's just an amazing sort of nonfiction novel in verse, or I don't know what you'd call it. But it's just a wonderful poet, and he lives in Tasmania now, so we'll be talking to him from Tasmania, which should be interesting too. And the prompt for the week, what was the prompt? Oh yeah, this was to write about the motivation of a mythical creature. That is the prompt for this week. Write a poem exploring the motivations of a mythological creature, like a vampire, unicorn, dragon, etc. So imagine you are a dragon or a unicorn or a vampire or something, and write about your motivations. Sort of a Halloweenish prompt for the last show before Halloween. And that will be for the open mic after we talk to David Mason on Tuesday, October 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see you then. In the meantime, hope you have a great weekend. Goodbye. Oh, and I should say too, don't forget to sign up for next week's drawing if you'd like to participate in the critique of the week. Just go to submittal.com and sign up. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye.